Okay, hello everyone to another episode of Marketing Mediator. Once again, we are back with a special guest. Before we start, my name is Amandeep Singh. I'm your host. What we have been trying to do in this series of podcast is we're trying to untangle this puzzle in the world of marketing and advertising because there are a lot of perspectives, a lot of point of views. What we want to do is we want to speak to different people from different backgrounds who have spent a lot of time in advertising and building brands. And as part of this series today, we have Abbas all the way from Bombay. Welcome to the show, Abbas.
Hi, Aman. How are you? Good to
I,
talk to you
I am
again, man.
good, man. All good. Thank you for taking out the time, dude. I know weekends is the only time when you get a break, but I thought if you can give me like an hour or so, it'll be great.
It's my pleasure. It's always great talking to you. So, yeah, we
Awesome.
can start.
Okay. So Abbas, I would like to start by, getting to know a little bit about you. But the point which I'm really interested in for our audiences is that how did you actually get into advertising? That's if you talk a little bit about that, that'll be great.
Okay, so I mean, you know about it because we have been talking for the last couple of years as friends. So, I started out my career as an engineer. So, my first job brought me to Bombay.
Mhm.
And after working for a software firm for like a couple of years, I realized that, okay, TK, I need to work for something that satisfies my soul a little more actually. And I was always into writing. I love to write things. I used to have a blog in 2010 11,
Mhm.
and I used to contribute very frequently to it. And a time came when I realized that, okay, I want to uh, keep writing for the rest of my life. I
Mhm.
want to be a professional writer.
Mhm.
So when I started exploring different options. So advertising is something that was already on my mind, mostly because of the fact that a lot of advertising people have joined film industry and other creative industries
Mhm.
and have become legends. So advertising was something that was on my mind, but at the same time, I also wanted to get into journalism.
Mhm.
But at some point of time, I realized that okay, journalism is. I mean, I'm not liking the way journalism is being done
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And I realized that, okay, I mean, if I have to do something to do with writing, then it has to be advertising, which will also help me in getting into the films, which I always wanted to
Mhm.
do. And this is how advertising happened. And just before advertising happened, I realized that while I feel that I write good, I also need to see that how well do I write, because my friends uh, like my work, but if I am thrown into a pack of people who are like really good writers, how am I going to perform there? So that's why I decided to get into a formal course. I did my course in advertising from XIC just to understand whether I'm as good as other people or I am not as good as them actually.
Mhm.
And after doing this course in advertising and marketing from XIC, I just started off. So this is how it
But
was.
one interesting question I have here is that you for example knowing that you want to get into advertising and you having this talent and doing practice on writing, but do you think taking that formal training or course has actually made you a better creative?
I think that was the most important thing. So there
Mm-hmm.
are two reasons to it. The first reason is that you need to understand how good or bad you are. So when
Mm-hmm.
I was writing blogs, I was just sending it to a couple of people. They
Mm-hmm.
were like 200 word long articles. I used to send it to my ex boss, who is a very nice person. I used to send it to my brother. I used to send it to a couple of friends, and I don't even know if they read the whole thing. But they always said that, okay, you write well, yeah. I mean, this is something that I mean, you should do something in writing. But at the same time, I was always concerned about the fact, and since I was reading a lot and I was watching a lot of films and I was going through a lot of good work, I was not sure how good I was actually, because I was an engineer who did not have any formal training in writing, and I felt that I wrote well.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just thinking that if I am to compete with somebody who has done literature from Delhi University, how
Mm-hmm.
good I am going to do then
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
And that was the primary reason I decided. And also, this was the first part, just to check that whether I am good or not. And the second reason was that I wanted to get into the network,
Yeah.
because no matter how well you write, but if you don't have network and if you're not in the right network, you will never find opportunities for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way to get into the network is to get into a college where at least you will have an alumni network, and you will meet few people who can
Hmm.
guide you for what you wanted to do. So these
Hmm.
are the two reasons why I felt that getting or doing a professional course is very much needed. And I had applied for just two colleges. One was MICA, and other was XIC. I
Hmm.
didn't go to MICA because I think it was a 1 year long course at that point of time, and I did not want to move out of Mumbai. So
Hmm.
when both the offers came, I decided to. And there was one more reason. I had read somewhere that people like Imtiaz Ali, Ranjil De Silva, Abhishek Dubey, and a couple of good celebrities had studied in the same
Uh-huh.
ADMA batch.
Okay.
So that was the reason that actually made me a little biased towards XIC. And I don't regret it. I had the best time of my life, actually.
Got it. Got it. No, I think I have been, I have done few recordings before you, and I'm getting this consistent answer, right? That no matter what was the passion, the love for advertising or creating brands, everybody has spoken to says that oh, formal training actually helps you. So I think you're
Yeah.
giving the same answer. Uh, Let me, Abbas, change gears a little bit, right? And get into basically what you do and the reason I have you on the show, because apart from like if I tell you about the audiences of the podcast or people who read this newsletter, right? So of course there are a lot of people from advertising agency itself, but I think a bigger chunk is people who are not into agencies or marketing, people who are on the client side, people who are actually working in startups and D2C, and of course they are even more confused about what does advertising mean, what is marketing, and all that stuff. So my first question is, what exactly is creativity, right? How would you kind of define it in building brands, the work which you do? Can you give us your perspective on that?
So for me, creativity earlier when I was not in advertising, creativity for me was always about writing something or
Mm-hmm.
making films or singing or
Mm-hmm.
having any kind of talent that can make you stand out. But when I
Mm-hmm.
joined advertising, I realized creativity is all about solving the problem. If your
Mm-hmm.
problem is solved with just one line, go ahead with that. If your problem is solved by making a song, do that. If
Yeah.
your problem is solved by building a new technology or a new tool, do that, like the way Steven Spielberg does. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you feel that the camera that he needs to shoot on is not available in the market, he tries to create a different
Great.
product that can help him shoot a film like that, or maybe somebody like Christopher Nolan. I mean, they create their own products to match their vision, actually. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
creativity is, and it should always be about solving a problem. I keep giving this particular example. It might not sound that great when I say it because it might have a couple of cuss words, but excuse me for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you go to any cant area, they have got just one line written over there: trespassers will be shot.
Yes.
No fancy shots, no fancy fonts, no like creativity. Sometimes they put an image of person
With a
aiming for
gun.
the
Yeah.
target only for the people who cannot actually read. But
Yeah.
this one line, police lines do not cross, or like trespassers will be shot. It always works actually.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to stopping people from urinating on a wall, if you
Mm-hmm.
go to a place like Banaras or Mathura, you have lines like "Kutte ke poot yahan mat
Yeah,
moot."
Mahmood.
I mean, son of the dog, do not urinate here.
Yeah.
Just to discourage people from urinating there. A cant area does not need a creative line at that point of time. If
Yeah.
it simply writes trespassers will be shot, 99.9% people are going to get the message.
Mm-hmm.
But when you want to stop somebody from urinating on the wall, you need these creative lines which can at least, what can you say, discourage people from doing that. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what I mean defines creativity. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if your whole problem is solving just one line, go for it. If your problem solving involves creating a whole new product, go for it. So for me, creativity is all about that. Actually, I mean, I cannot
Nice.
explain the whole thing in a simpler term.
No, no, I think that's a great answer, because see, this is why the confusion usually starts, and you give a perfect answer, right? That it is not about the tools you are using or what the final product is, because most of the people make that mistake, right? They will say, oh, they will come to you and say, I want a film or I want activation, right? Whatever. But the thing is, creativity is not that. You have to take a step back and you have to understand what is the problem, and my creativity will be used to give you a solution, and then we will see what that means is, right? So I love
Yeah.
that answer, Abbas. My second question, continuing to it, because this is also like a hot thing. Last, I would say, 8 to 10 years, we live in an age where there is abundance of data, right? You're
Yeah.
constantly getting data before the brief comes to somebody like you. uh, Feedback also comes instantly. Oh, Abbas, you made this campaign, it is not performing well on XYZ KPIs. Oh, whether those KPIs are relevant or not, let's not get into that, but you have a lot of data coming in before the process, after the process. So my question to you is that, do you see data as like a barrier or like an enemy of creativity in some way?
No, data is not at all an enemy of creativity. The only thing is that you have to use data as a slave, actually. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot make it your master.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are using the data to just reinforce your own biases, that whole research, there's no point in having that research or using that data point. If
Mm-hmm.
that data gives you a new insight into the things that you are not at all aware of, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great. So I just joined Ogilvy and I've been to a couple of research meetings where I have directly talked to customers about the products which we have been trying to advertise for. I mean, they keep on giving you so many good insights now that you yourself cannot come with those things
Mm-hmm.
actually. And if you make it bigger, if you like start getting those kind of insights from so many different sources, it becomes a stream of data. It always depends on the fact that okay, if you are using that data to create something interesting and to come up with an idea that you would not have come up with if you had not that data,
Mm-hmm.
then it's great. Otherwise, if you're just using it as a number or as a statistic just to reinforce your own biases, it is never going to work. So in one line, I would like to say that use data as the slave or as a guiding light and
Yeah.
not as a master. Actually, it's as simple
Uh,
as that. It's like playing with fire. You can use it uh, uh, to cook, or you may use it to burn a house. It's
I,
as
I
simple as that.
I
It's
love
your
that
choice.
example, right? Again, it is, I think, the same thing, right? If you understand the basics well, then all these things which are coming to you, whether it is data, it's up to you. How do you use it? But it should be. I love the example of fire, right? You can cook food with it, or you can put something on fire. So love that answer. And third thing, which I want to ask as a segue from creativity, since we are talking about this, and I ask you this question because I know you have worked in different types of agencies, right? Where sometimes the focus is digital, integrated, or very creative. Uh, in your experience, uh, is technology, the whole tech, helping you come up with better creative ideas, or this also is like a barrier to you, like in your experience?
No, I mean, I am glad that this time has come because when I had
Mm.
joined advertising, I was an engineer. I had done my engineering in electronics and communication. I had done coding for 4.5 years for
Mhm.
a very huge multinational firm. And when I had joined advertising, I mean, I was told that it is an irrelevant experience. This is something that we don't need it. I mean, a person who is earning a certain amount as an engineer was suddenly told that you have to work for free because
Mhm.
whatever you have done in the past is no more relevant. And I suddenly realized that it has all become so relevant
Mhm.
that I'm really, really liking it. At one of the agencies where I had gone, I think 2 or 3 years back, I told them, "Look, okay, I'm asking for a 10% extra hike because I am a tech guy and
Engineer.
I understand most of the thing in the most natural way. So technology comes very natural to me, and I can see a lot of people, advertising people, talking about technology, getting intimidated by it, and trying to hide their fear behind big words and jargon. They don't realize that technology is something that keeps on enabling things, actually. I would like to
True.
give you another example. I'm digressing a bit
Hmm.
from the conversation, but I remember the interview of Mr. Ramanand Sagars' son, who had told this on I think Kapil Sharma show or somewhere that
Mhm.
his father had once gone abroad to some European country. He was making films. Ramanand Sagar was making films, but those films were not getting as successful as he wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And one day he went to Europe to shoot a film, and suddenly uh, he went to this hotel room, and the housekeeping guy came and he gave him a remote or something, and he told him that if you want to watch TV, you can press this button and the video will start playing on this small screen. And
Mm-hmm.
he was shocked. He saw the TV and said, "Ke, where is the projector? Projector kidhar hai?"
Mm.
And the housekeeping guy told him, "Sir, there's no projector." Imagine somebody who had only seen videos through projectors
Yeah.
suddenly seeing a product which was right there in front of him. It was portable, it was in the room, and he did not need a projector. At that point of time, Ramanand Sagar said, "Okay, I'm not going to make films anymore because this is the future. If you can bring a screen into this small room, this is going to go into every house. Now I'm going to make TV shows." And this is how Ramayana, Alif Laila,
Mm-hmm.
and Mahabharat came into the picture, and it changed the game completely, actually.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and this was technology. I mean, not using a projector at that point of time was the leap of technology
Mm-hmm.
that somebody had taken. Same is the case with internet. Same is the case with AI. So
Yeah.
all these technologies. Same is the case with digital cameras. The
Mm-hmm.
technology will keep on coming, and all the people who are creative, and all the people who are solution oriented, and all the people who are visionaries. They might not be a tech guy, but they can be a visionary like Steve Jobs. They will keep lapping up those technology to come up with better and bigger products, actually. So it is how it is. So there's no point in getting intimidated with technology or anything that comes into the picture. The only thing is that you need to understand how you want to use it. Like 1 month back, everybody was getting scared of these AI voices and everything, and
Yeah.
now I just saw a meme which was making Mr. Narendra Modi sing using the AI, and they're having fun out of that technology. Actually, people were,
Yeah.
most of the advertising people, they were getting intimidated with the product, and there's one meme maker who is making Modi ji sing out of these
Yeah.
tools. So this is
Mm-hmm.
how you have to. This is how people accept the technology, and then it becomes a norm. So I don't know what was the question, but yeah,
No, no,
this
I
is what.
think it was about technology, and you answered it very nicely, right? I think, of course, I am also an engineer, and I also think that in my career, because I was with an IT company, but I loved advertising. I got into advertising, but my biggest strength has been to the ability to understand technology. I think I would say 100%, because like you were saying that something happens in those 4 years when you're doing engineering, even if you're a creative person, that you have this thing called structured thinking, that no matter what technology, what data, what numbers are coming to you, if I spend little bit time on it, I will understand how it is, what is the rationale behind it, and how do I use it. So I think being very open to understanding the basics of technology and thinking like you give the example of it, rather than being afraid of it, I should be thinking that how do I use it to my advantage, right? Because maybe the world is going to change, get revolutionized by this agent, a new technology. So
And because, and
mhm,
if you are not going to use it as a marketer or an advertising person, your consumer is going to use the technology, as simple
100%.
as that. And then you will
100%.
have to run behind that person.
Hmm.
See the case of social media. People
Yeah.
started using it first, and then marketers and advertising people start running behind that. I mean,
Yeah.
it did not start with an advertising person.
Hmm.
Okay, oh, this is a product you should use. It started with users, and then people came
Hmm.
after it. Actually, this is how it happens. Because if you will keep running scared of technology, the consumer is going to dump it on you, and then you will have to learn it no matter.
Cool. That was a very nice examples. I think I loved asking those questions, and as expected, you are giving me perfect answers. Let's
Just
change
do my best.
gears a little bit, right? Now, one important question, which is I think on minds of a lot of people, is that guys, you guys sitting in, if you're a marketer, if you are working in agency, consultant, strategist, if anybody's trying to understand marketing, and I'm asking this from perspective of people who are now into T2Cs and trying to scale up their ventures, uh, they always ask the same thing, right? That all the examples you give, all the case studies you give, right, as professionals, they're always about big brands, right? But fundamentally, there is something different between established brands and brands which are trying to grow, right? So people who are trying to grow brands and who are not yet Unilevers of the world, is there a fundamental difference on how they should be using advertising, which is like different from somebody who's already established and big?
They are already doing it, because if you are a startup, I mean, whether you are bootstrapped or funded, whether you
Hmm.
have you are in the first month of your operations, or whether you are in the third stage of your funding,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are already using a lot of interesting stuff to advertise actually, because they know that they have to compete against these very big players actually. I mean, and it may not be very much based on technology. If you follow Shantanu Deshpande, the founder of
The
the Bombay
entrepreneurs.
Shaving Company,
Yeah,
what is he doing actually? He
it's
has been
amazing.
creating some interesting stuff, no doubt about that. But he's literally going to the street in Connaught Place and a lot of other places to
Selling
sell the
razors.
razors himself. And he has started a contest where he is telling people that, okay, you help me sell these razors directly and you are going to get funding from me or something like that. I'm not sure about what he's offering or as a gratification. But he has gone back to the most basic
Mm-hmm.
way of doing business, reaching the consumer directly and convincing him that, okay, my product is good. Why don't you use it actually?
Mm-hmm.
And this is how it is going to give you value for money. So for me, it is bigger than most of technology. I don't know if he's going to succeed or not, but he has managed to create a lot of eyeballs. Technology, I'll tell you where technology has come into the picture. I mean, a person going to sell razors on the street is not a big deal. Okay,
Yeah,
anybody can do that. People have been doing that. If you go to local trains or stations anywhere,
you still
people have
sell
been
it.
trying to do that. But the moment a CEO or a CFO, I think he had also taken his CFO along with him, or his partner. I don't remember. But if you go there and then you leverage the power of social media, and after you have made a personal brand for yourself, actually, people are going to get noticed. This is where technology comes into the picture. You have to be a little innovative when you have to compete with Gillette. Because I have
True.
worked on Gillette. I know that they have got like a lot of money to spend on different ads. But there's a guy who has got his funding from venture capitalists, but at the same time, he is using these out of box methods to create a brand equity for himself and for his products. So I mean, they have already been doing that. If you see what Whole Truth is doing, they stopped advertising on Instagram. They said that we are taking a break from Instagram because what we are trying to say cannot be done in like 15-20 second reels. We need long blogs for that,
Mm-hmm.
and they did not advertise anything on Instagram for about 4 or 5 months. And now they have
Wow.
again come up with some interesting ways of doing that. So if you see all those B2C brands, they have always been doing some interesting. See what Cred is doing. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
there's a different discussion whether they're profitable or not. But these are something we can talk about later. But as far as advertising and grabbing eyeballs are concerned, they have been doing a great job actually. See how Cred has just announced its new product or new services, whatever they're doing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
by like putting those fancy cars in outside their office. So they have already
Yeah.
been
No,
doing
I
that.
think they're both of them are great ideas because I like the first idea, that whole raise up, and as I also follow it because it answers all the questions. And let me just break it down for our audiences. Right now, if you are a big brand and if you hear only big brand case studies, Gillette, for example, you cannot beat them on mental availability because you cannot buy that much of media. B, you cannot beat them on physical availability because you cannot be on the shelves as much as Gillette. But see what he is doing, right? He is a founder. Of course, he has funding, but he built his personal brand, and he thought,
Yeah.
okay, I cannot have the physical and mental availability like Gillette does, but I can go directly to the consumer, right? By going on the streets, calling students and other entrepreneurs to sell my stuff. I mean, there's a whole program to it, but he's grabbing attention, right? He's grabbing eyeballs, so he's fighting, right? And the second example, I kind of love it, is like in advertising, Abbas. Ultimately, the first thing which you are trying to do when you're making a film, for example, you have to grab attention, right? And these guys are grabbing
Yeah.
attention. The cred guys especially, they grab, no matter how bizarre the idea, how new kind of idea, but they're grabbing attention. So you are saying that the young new generation startups are actually fighting with them, and they show how it is done. Yeah, good one. Follow up question. Once, like when you are a startup, right, you have all these issues which we spoke about. I have less money, I have to grab attention, I have to be innovative, I have to use my personal brand. But there is this thing about brand versus dhanda, right? Brand versus performance, right? As advertisers, or because you are more experienced, right, you would always say that I have to spend money on building a brand, because
Mhm.
building a brand helps in two ways, not just short term but also in long term. If you keep doing performance, you will suffer after 2 3 years, right? Because you did not spend enough money on brand. So What is your perspective on that, and what would you like to tell, especially the young, young generation ventures, on importance of spending money on actually building brand and not just short-term performance marketing?
They both have to go hand in hand. Actually, you
Mm-hmm.
need to grab eyeballs. That's great, but at the same time, you have to bring create build a long term brand salience for yourself. Actually, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
otherwise you will be forgotten very quickly. Because
Yeah.
any kind of advertising, any kind of performance, any kind of fancy stuff, it can make people try your product once. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
after that, it totally depends on what kind of journey you are making them go through. Actually, if the brand is present, if you see that, okay, TK, I tried this product, I didn't like it that much. Maybe I like their advertising, maybe I like the kind of communication they did. But if there is a brand building which
Mm-hmm.
keeps on happening, I might again try that product maybe after 3 4 years, and then I'll realize that, okay, I mean, it was not that bad. Maybe at that point of time, I did not understand what the product was. Like now, I think I am more like a target audience for them. I mean, of course, consumer will never use words like that, but
Yeah.
sometimes you end up using that. So this is how brand building helps. So, okay, I try a product today. I realize that no, it's not for me. I don't like it, or maybe I like a different product better. But but if the but if the same brand keeps on building itself over
Mm-hmm.
years, maybe after some time I realize that, okay, this product is particular for me, or maybe I will recommend it to somebody. So this is where the long term brand building helps. Like, I would like to give you the example of Dabur.
Yeah.
So everybody knows Dabur has got this Chyawanprash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you are a 15-year-old or a 20-year-old guy, you might hate it. But imagine if you are 35 and the brand is still there with all its glory. You might try the product as a 35-year-old, or maybe you will give it to your kid.
Kids for
And then
sure.
this is how the cycle repeats. I mean, this will only happen if the brand is still relevant after many years,
True.
because it is not a year long journey. I use this product, I didn't like it or like it, and after 2 years the product is not even available, or I don't like it anymore. This is where the whole brand building helps. So currently I'm working on Colgate brands actually, and I realized that I have got three different toothpastes of Colgate in my house, and I didn't
House.
even realize it actually.
Seriously.
Because if you go to a supermarket, no matter how many products are there, you know what to pick up.
Yeah.
And even if it has become a blind spot for you for some time, not just talking about this brand, I'm talking about any other brand. Even if somebody blindfolds you, you are going to pick that product only. And this
Yeah.
is what brand building does to you actually.
Mm-hmm. Great, great answer. So, guys, if you are listening and if you have any doubts about why you need to build your brand, you just heard the answer, right? Let me put it in a simple way, right? What Abbas is saying is that maybe in advertising, specifically when we are trying to build brands, you are not necessarily trying to buy a consumer of today. You might be doing it for a consumer who will buy 1 year after, 2 years after, 3 years after. That is how long term thinking brand building has to go after. So do not short sell brand, spend money on it even if you have smaller budget. So that is, I think, our advice to everybody who is listening in. Cool. Abbas, now let me change the gears again and let me ask you like a couple of rapid fire questions to make it a
Oh,
little bit more fun. Yeah, simple ones, anything which comes to your mind you can say. Yeah, so my first simple one is that what is your favorite book on advertising, like your personal favorite?
right now, Pandemonium actually, and
Hmm.
Hegarty on creativity is another one.
Hmm.
And there's a book called 30-Second Thrillers written by Fox,
Hmm.
my ex-boss. I mean, I love all these three books
Okay,
very much.
nice. I will
There are
put
many
the.
others, like the copybook is also there, but Pandemonium, 30-Second
Mhm.
Thrillers, and Hegarty on creativity. I mean, I
Okay.
absolutely love these three
So
books.
your these are your top three. Cool. And if
Yeah.
I were to ask you again, slightly tough one, but your favorite piece of advertisement?
I mean, it's very, very difficult to say. I mean, I wish I could give you like 10 names,
Yeah,
but
something which comes to your mind. You know.
yeah. So there's a film for Volkswagen Polo. It's an ad for small car. It has been directed by Jonathan Glazer. It's a black and white ad that shows you people making themselves small to save them from fire and for many other things. And in the end, just one line appears that says, "You realize how safe you feel when you make yourself small.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the car. I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, I can think of many other ads, but this is something that inspires me every time I watch it. Actually,
Nice, nice,
it's a lovely one.
nice. Okay. Third one is this is like a very debatable question, so I would let you choose something. So, if personal opinion, if you are trying to build a successful brand in terms of, let's say, assets, would you choose differentiation or would you choose distinctiveness?
I mean, I would rather have a mix of both. Actually, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be a little distinct. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to branding to a certain extent, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
differentiation is also thing. And I would also like to put a dash of familiarity to it actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, imagine if somebody has launched. I mean, this is a very different kind of example, but if somebody had launched sushi in 1990, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
feel, or momo in 1990, it would have failed. But sometimes a little, because this is what street vendors do. I mean, you can learn a lot of things from them. They will have a very fancy product like a momo, but
Mm-hmm.
they will have a very familiar product called chutney,
Uh-huh.
and the filling is also something which will be a little distinctive. It will create a differentiation, but at the same time it is a mix of something familiar, something exotic, and something very distinct. So I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
would like to build a brand like that if ever given a chance.
Okay. If
I don't know if
choosing
I'm
like
making sense or not.
little bit
I
of
mean, but
no,
there
no,
has to be a certain.
I think the reason I am asking is because again this is more of like a debate, right? And I follow a lot of people, for example, Byron Sharp, and that like Byron Sharp in Laws of Marketing, for example, he talks about he talks about distinctiveness because according to him, and this is like all backed by marketing sciences, he says that in a category like let's take your example of let's say toothpaste, right? Most of the people have same more or less same needs, right? Most of the communication and products are also same, most of them, right? So he says that it is not about differentiation because most of the products are more or less same. You have to be more distinct, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what his research shows. Again, I also have different opinion, but I think you are going with both, so best of both worlds.
Yeah,
uh,
because this has to be like that. Since you talked about toothpaste, I mean, if you see that, if you take any average toothpaste, actually,
yeah.
what it says, it tells you that it has got neem in it, which is
Yeah.
a traditional thing. People know that neem has got a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
And then when you see the packaging, it looks a little exotic, which is a little distinct. Okay, I look a little different from
Mm-hmm.
different, and at the same time it is also giving you some kind of differentiation that okay, it makes your gum stronger, or it
Mm-hmm.
makes your teeth white, or it
Mm-hmm.
does this. So I mean, if you see, there are all those three things.
Mm-hmm.
An ingredient like neem or miswak or anything you want to talk about, or calcium, whatever they want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
this creates that brings in that element of familiarity. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the packaging creates that distinctness,
Mm-hmm.
and the differentiation uh, happens because of the way it works actually. So it
Correct,
can be,
correct.
and you can have your own permutation and combination. This is just an example that came to my mind, but
Yeah.
this is how it has to be like.
Yeah. So in a way, you are saying that both the things are important. Again, depends on what is the size
Yeah,
of the brand category. You need to be you should be differentiating yourself to get noticed, and distinct basically helps you, to build a brand maybe like that. That's more
yeah,
relevant.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Last one on the rapid fire round. Out of these names which I take as domains, as group of people, who do you hate the most?
Oh my.
Account managers, planners, you I don't know if you will say creatives, but it is on my list. People in media, people in technology, or people in finance.
I mean, it's very difficult to say, and I'm not a politically correct person, and I would
Hmm.
not like to be a politically correct person, because
Hmm.
uh, I have liked people from all these departments that you have mentioned. I've also disliked them uh,
Hmm.
from these departments. The only thing is that anybody who is not letting me do my work properly,
Hmm.
I mean, that person can be from any department. That person can be an art director. That person can be a servicing person.
Simple.
That person can be a planner. Any person who obstructs my creativity or who does not let me do my work with full honesty, I mean, I'm not going to like him. As
Hmm.
simple as that.
Hmm.
And he
Okay.
can be anybody. He can be your boss or he can be your intern. I mean,
Hmm.
as long as you're letting me do things, because when it comes to, when I'm writing my own thing, I do not take anybody's advice, or
Hmm.
I take it sometimes. But when I'm working for a brand, I feel that it's my duty to be honest to the clients who are paying
Hmm.
me actually. So
Hmm.
it is, I'm very, very, like, what can you say, objective in that way. So anybody who stops me from delivering my work properly, I'm not going to like that person. I mean, it can
Okay.
be as
Hmm.
truthful as that.
Cool. So I think in my last segment, we'll have a little bit of more conversation, but this conversation would be more about, trying to understand from your experience that, how do you become a better creative, right, in the domain we work in, which is building brands. So my first question to you is, because we have worked together, uh, everybody has a unique past, your upbringing, your parents, your religion, your region, the city you grew up in, your spouse, lots of things, right? uh, and I think because of the some of the brands which we worked together, I think we kind of did some good work because we had similar
Yeah.
backgrounds which kind of worked for the brand, right? But it was unique in a way that you had that background and I had that background, and we were able to jam. So my question is that if somebody young, you 15 years ago, 20 years ago, who somebody is trying to become a creative, what would you advise them? Not in a way that you can change the circumstances, but
Mhm.
how do you become a better creative in the future?
I mean, if you're a young creative, there are two, I think, yeah, two things I would like to say. Always be, two or three things I would rather say. I
Mhm.
mean, always be solution oriented. I mean, make it a way
Yeah,
of life, actually. This is the
number one.
most important thing. I mean, it is not just about writing or coming up with campaigns, anything. If you want to, like, do anything in your life, be a little solution oriented, actually.
Mhm.
Always have that jugaad mentality somewhere. I mean, when I say jugaad, I do not mean being a keep looking for some stopgap arrangement, but always have that. In Hindi, you call it kida, or that,
Mhm.
like, always think of doing something creatively.
Yeah.
The second thing is that, I mean, this is something which I would like to tell to people, because this is something I have also learned as I have grown. That
Mhm.
be an easy guy to work with, actually. When
Mhm.
I say be an easy guy to work with, you do not have to chartify everybody, but
Mhm.
be the person people would love to come to.
Mhm.
Okay, this guy is going to solve the problem. If you see any creative person,
Mhm.
whether it's a musician or anybody or a filmmaker, when they were young, they were very easy guys to work with.
Yeah.
As they grew, they became legends, and then they had so many things on their head, and they chose to be a little rude. But every creative, every young creative person who has become something at some point of time was a very easy guy to work with in
Mhm.
the beginning, actually. And
Mhm.
this is how you, uh, the words about your work spreads, actually.
Mhm.
And the third thing is that do not lose your friends
Mhm.
uh, when it comes to work. Actually, maybe you will be able to push a campaign uh, or get it done, but in the process, if you are if it is spoiling your network, or if it is making you lose your friend, it's not worth it, actually, because you never know that how uh, important the person might actually become when it comes to doing something for you. I'm not saying that a client servicing person goes onto the client side and becomes your client, not like that. But a lot of time there are people who might not be that great at that point of time, but tomorrow
Yeah.
they might really excel in a different role, and that time you might going to need him to get few things done, actually. So these are the three things. Be an easy guy to work with. Always try to solve problems, no
Mhm.
matter what, and try to build a network. So, I mean,
Mhm.
these are the three things. I mean, I'm not perfect. I
No.
mean, I am also trying to learn these three things. But I mean, these are the three things I would like to say.
And yeah, I kind of love those. And I think if I were to, give one takeaway from these three, right? Like the most important, which you spoke, number one is, I think again, I see the patterns in our conversation. It's all about being solution oriented, right? And I think this is a big mistake, misconception, which a lot of people have, that if you're coming to, for example, an agency, a marketing agency, they are just going to give you a deliverable, right? That is something which really disturbs me. I think our industry has very creative people, strategic people, executioner, business people, commercial people, tech people, that a client or a brand should come and just tell us the problem first. Boss, my market share is going down, right? Boss, my people are not buying my products. They're now repeat purchasers. Whatever, right? Like my, my margins are going low, whatever it is. And allow us to come back with a solution first, right? Like you were saying.
Yeah.
I think if more and more people in our industry, especially the young people who are coming in and joining the new generation, if they just come with this mentality, I think everything will change.
Yeah,
because
that's the most important. Even the
I
older
think,
people need to have this mentality. So
yeah,
now you have become a senior CD or an ECD, you will stop thinking of solution. No, it doesn't happen that way. You have to be
absolutely. And
solution oriented all your life, actually.
exactly. See, the other points which you said were personal, right? Which I really appreciate, because if you're not easy to work with, nobody's going to come to you. Like,
Yeah,
you will not even get your opportunities. Or if you're losing your friends,
yeah.
it is also going to impact you emotionally, socially, and all that ways. But
Sooner or later,
uh,
sooner or later.
I love the first one, because I think this is also one of the reasons, we are friends. That I think the way we kind of connected was just because of this attitude. I mean, we did not know
Yeah.
each other personally. We did not
We
have
love
like a,
working with each other,
yeah,
actually. I
because
mean, it started because of
because
the work.
because we were always discussing a problem, and we
Yeah.
were together
Always.
always thinking about solutions. And I love the fact that the reason I love working with creatives and love working with you is, when we are thinking solution, I think you guys do not think about constraints at that moment, right? That next 30 minutes, if it is brainstorming, we will think anything, right? And we'll think about possibilities later on. That is how great creative solutions come out. So if you want to
Yeah.
take a key takeaway, be solution oriented. And when you're thinking, I think just go big. Do not constrain yourself at that stage. Let the constraints come at a very later stage, right? When you're actually executing it.
Very true.
Awesome.
Very true.
No, Abbas, I think our time is almost up. I think it was great conversation. Thank you. You could take out the time and give some advice to all the people who are listening in today, to all our audiences.
And just thank you so much for this opportunity because I mean I am somebody who likes to do conversations, mostly informal ones actually. I mean I don't think I've reached the stage where I need to tell people what they can do because I'm constantly learning and evolving. So every day when I wake up, I realize okay, I mean how my day is going to uh, be like. So constantly I'm learning new things. But it really feels great to talk to somebody like you who is a friend. We keep on talking to each other, but at the same time, this is for the first time we are talking on a very like on a
In
podcast,
the setup.
and it's a really good one because I have
Yeah,
listened to most of yeah in this setup actually. But yeah, it's great talking to you, man. I mean, I hope that we keep on talking a lot more even offline, so that we keep learning from each other. Yeah.
absolutely. So, guys, before we
Thank you,
sign
Aman.
off,
Thank you for having me.
just a reminder: do not forget to subscribe our channel, and like it and share it if you like this conversation. That was Aman, and that was Abbas. Thank you so much.